Okay, so now you have your Python distribution configured in a way you can practice your data science and machine learning. You have your Python distribution, Python installation, all required basic libraries required to start or begin with data science and machine learning work. We discussed that in detail in our previous lesson. So today we are going to discuss about an IDE or integrated development environment, which will be helpful for you to practice your data science and machine learning related coding. So before we begin to discussing about the Visual Studio Code or VS Code, the IDE, I'm going to discuss about, like, in general, what are the IDEs available to you. So one of the IDEs available is PyCharm. It is being also used in data science and machine learning community, and you can download the PyCharm community version for free. So you will see you can download for the professional or the free community version. So it has all the capability. You can do like a lot of data science and machine learning work, and then you can use it for your projects as well. If you want to get the paid version, there is a pricing guide. You can go there and you can look for it, what you need to purchase. This is a very powerful tool. You may use it, especially if you're working in industry. Sometimes your company or maybe your workplace wanted to use the PyCharm. So today we are going to explore the IDE from Microsoft, so which is called Visual Studio Code or VS Code. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is this one, but don't get confused with Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a different offering from Microsoft. Visual Studio Code is a free offering from Microsoft. If you go to Visual Studio Code web page, so this is the code.visualstudio.com is the web page for the Visual Studio Code, or in short form we call it VS Code. So let's go to the web page. In this page you will find the download link for Windows. It automatically select the Windows version, but if you wanted to go to other platforms, you can also select what are the other platforms available, and depending on your platform you can download your VS Code for your platform. So for Windows you will find out, okay, you will see this Mac OS version there, and Windows version is there, and the Linux version is there. You can choose which version you depending on your operating system. So here I'm going to download the Windows option. It is very simple. You can simply download it by clicking the link. So it will start the downloader and download into your computer. And while it is being downloaded, so you may read the documentation or the getting started guide. So it will start downloading. It will take like some moment to get it downloaded. So you will see the getting started guide, and then let's see what we are going to explore here. So the VS Code, you will find out a regular IDE. If you're familiar with a different IDE with other programming language you used before, it is not something new to you, but you will find out very easy to use it with Python, right? So then you will find out what are the extensions available. So the VS Code comes with a base IDE, and you can install other extensions for Python, C++, many other programming languages. You can install the extensions depending on what you use, which programming language to use, which tool you use. For example, you can have extension to work with Azure cloud platform, or working with Docker, work with the SQL Server. You can install many different extensions, but they are the most the popular and the common extension people will use if you want to use Python, right? So these are some of the instructions. I would encourage you to read about it, but I will give you essential instructions how we can get started with this VS Code for your Python or Python data science and machine learning work. If you notice here on this panel, you will find out some example, some instructions, the language specific instruction. If you go to Python, you will have a tutorial, you have some guides and everything with instructions, so you may follow them in your own time. Okay, so since now the VS Code is getting downloaded, let me open the installer. To install VS Code, you need to click on the VS Code installer you downloaded. On the screen, you will see an agreement. You have to choice. You have a choice whether to accept or do not accept the agreement. If you do not wish to continue with the product or this VS Code software tool, you may say I do not accept the agreement and close it. If you want to use the tool, you can say I accept the agreement. That is the choice you have to make if you want to move forward. If you wish not to use the VS Code for your Python or data science or machine learning Python development, you can choose any other alternatives, like we already discussed about some other IDE, or you can still code using Notepad or a similar application and then execute your Python code using command line. That is also a possibility. But having an IDE like VS Code or PyCharm or similar will be very helpful for you when you are working on a bigger projects or making production ready applications. So here I'm going to accept this agreement and I will be continuing. You will get an option as the next step. You will get an option where to install VS Code. So here you don't see a system-wide installation option. As you notice, it will install in your user folder. You may choose a different folder. If you want to install in a different folder, you can either type the path or you can browse into a different path. I'm going to continue with the default folder selected. And the next option will be whether or not you need to create a shortcut. You can say I don't want to create a shortcut, but I will leave the default option. And there are also a prompt asking whether or not you need to create a desktop icon. I would say I would like to have a desktop icon. Another option, I will stay with the default options, like I will add path to VS Code in the environmental variable, and then I will register code as the editor for supported file types. So supported file types will be the file types associated with the Python or Java or some other supported file types we can choose. But right now, once it is getting installed, it will be the default editor for supported file types. I will choose the default options except the desktop icon. I altered that option from the default one, and then I will continue. So here are the settings or the configuration of the installation I selected, and I will click install. That will make VS Code or Visual Studio Code install in my local computer. It will take some time to install. Could be few seconds to few minutes depending on your computer or depending on the system you will be using. Once it is getting installed, I will show you what are the options available. So let's give like few more seconds to install VS Code. Okay, it is almost done. We'll be ready to use it within few seconds. Okay, the installation is done. You can leave the checkbox to say launch Visual Studio Code and click finish. Then Visual Studio Code will open on your window. Okay, so I will maximize the screen. So here is the Visual Studio Code interface you are seeing for the first time after installation. You may choose a theme, whether you would like to have a dark theme or dark with high contrast, or maybe you may like a light theme. If you like a light theme, you have like your code in a white background. You type your code, and code will be obviously color coded depending on the syntax in your programming language you choose. If you wish to use a dark theme, you will be coding in a dark background. So it's up to you. It's a personal choice if you like to use dark or light. So you can choose it right now, or you can change it later as well. There are more themes as well. I'm not going to explore them right now, but if you are installing by yourself, if you choose to use VS Code, you may explore other themes available and choose whatever you like. Other option on the welcome screen, you can choose what the color themes are, and you can sync from other devices. If you are using VS Code from other devices, if you have a login created, you may sync with the other devices. I will leave it as it is, and I will go to the next section. And in the next section you will say you learn the fundamentals. So that means you have other options available in VS Code. So redefine your editing skills, want to code faster or smarter, practice powerful code editing features. So there are other options available. You can go to the editor playground, or you can leave it there with, you can choose other options. So you can go to the next section. I would like you to explore these things. So in the interactive playground you will find out some other work. So then to boost your productivity, so optimize your development workflow with these tips. So there will be some tips and tricks you may explore it. And what are the tips available? I will going to work on these tips on with a separate video of what are the things available in VS Code. So you may see you can have two codes side by side. You can have versions of the same code, old version and new version. You can compare side by side, and you can track changes. You can have two different codes compare, and then you can work at the same time in two different codes on the same screen. There are many options available. You can track the history. You can navigate through different parts of your code very easily. And also you have, obviously you have the color coded syntax, and you can do like a linking between your parts of your code. Like you can link to a function, to the definition of the function from your code. So there are many different helpful features available in this IDE. So therefore you will see when we are discussing in detail how useful this IDE for your Python development, not limited to your data science and machine learning work. So you may explore this help guide, and you may use it to explore it, but I'm not going to walk through it, but I will say mark as done. So once you complete your welcome screen, and then you will get this window, and it will say you can begin working with VS Code. Either you can create a new file, or you can open existing file. I don't have any file in this computer, but I can definitely create a new file, or you can open a folder for your editing. The folder is your package folder. You can assume that is the folder you would be working in your project, so you can do that as well. And you can also always go back to learn the fundamentals, and you can go back to that the screen we looked at earlier. You can learn more about the features of your newly installed VS Code, and what are the features available, and each feature you will have some example. You can read more about it, and you may find most of the features are very useful for your day-to-day work if you are actively building software applications or data science or machine learning applications. For the last item, so now we install VS Code and we are ready to use VS Code. I will show you how to create a new file. So you can simply click on new file here, or you can say file, new file. Okay, and it will open. So if you want to open a folder, you can do it as well here. Okay, so but one thing we don't have in this VS Code. So we just install the VS Code, but we need to use VS Code as the development environment for our Python applications. But right now we don't have Python extension installed. Okay, so by default you will not have any install extensions, right? You will see install extension are 0. So there are some recommendations, so that's something else, but you can say what are the extensions we should be installing. Click the popular. If you go to the popular options, if you click the arrow for the popular, it will expand the menu, and you will see the Python as the first item, because this is being used for Python application heavily. So as you see, the 77.4 million downloads over the users. You may click install in any of these extensions. Again, like same like the Python libraries I mentioned, please pay attention to the package source. Don't install anything if you don't trust, because this is also a open source contribution. People can make their own extensions and upload to the repository, and it is also available through VS Code. For example, this one is not from Microsoft. You see the Microsoft verified ones are with this blue check mark, right? So in this symbol, and those are Microsoft verified or maintained by Microsoft, and those are trusted. You may if you don't know where the package is coming from, only use the trusted sources. Okay, So the Python is a trusted source. I would hit install here to let it install, and it may install with some other extension as well, some other dependencies, right? So it will install Jupyter Notebook environment, right? So Jupyter Notebook support to VS Code, and the Pylons, it will be also available here. And so these are some dependencies it is getting installed. Okay, if you wanted to install some other programming language support like C or C++, you may hit install and install it. And Java support as well. You have the Docker, and if you if you see the blue check mark, those are like verified or trusted packages. You can consider them as trusted. If you wanted to find out any other package you wanted to see with a different programming language, you can search and find it out here. So I will give like few more seconds, or maybe like a minute or two, to install the components of the extensions and their components and the other dependencies for make VS Code ready for us to use with Python. So let's patiently wait for few seconds or maybe a couple of minutes at most. I will pause the video for a while and I will enable it again. I will resume the video after getting the Python extensions are installed. Okay, so the Python extensions for VS Code successfully installed. So once it is installed, you will get a window like this. It will say get started with Python development. It will also guide you through some instructions and some help. I'm not going to go through this each and every item, but when you are doing it for the first time, if you're not familiar with VS Code, please make sure you go through these guides, okay, and learn more about from him. And then also you will see another window open. Here is an example, a split screen. You can have like two things on the same screen side by side. So this screen is for Python development, the help or the guide, and this is for the Jupyter Notebook. So you can use Jupyter Notebook within VS Code to build Python code and to test Python code. Anything you would like to do with Jupyter Notebook you can do here. So this is the guide for Jupyter Notebook. Here also you can go through this documentation or the guide, and then you will find out what are the capabilities, what are the options available to make your work easy, right? So I'm not going to go through this one as well. You may do it when in your own time when you are exploring the VS Code. Okay, so you can select different options and what are the features, what are the capabilities, you will find out here. All right, so now we are ready to start coding Python with the Python installation we set up in this laptop, as well as we install VS Code as an IDE to use with Python programming. So we are ready. Hope you are ready as well. If you wanted to start on the next lesson, please make sure you complete these two steps: installing Python, installing VS Code, and the additional step is to install Python extension within VS Code. Okay, I will hope to see you next video with the lesson how we can use VS Code for Python development. Thank you, and see you in the next video.